What's up, YouTube? So today is episode 2 of the pre-program series for the 30-day Kickstart program. So if you don't know what the Kickstart program is, then go back to the last video, the first video in this playlist. I will put a link to it down in the description box below. Today's topic is going to be Dieting 101, calorie and macro tracking for your goals, depending on what they are, how to set everything up, and how to know that you're going to be managing your nutrition correctly for these 30 days so that you make the best progress possible. So if you are watching this before July 17th, 2017, then you still have the chance to send me your starting pictures to get the free nutrition pamphlets by doing that and to enter for your chance to win a grand prize. All I need right now is your starting pictures before July 17th, commitment that you're gonna start with me, and then you'll be eligible for all the prizes, all the free stuff. And so if you don't know what I'm talking about, again, see that last video. It's gonna be down in the description box below. Make sure to enter into the contest and download this program if you haven't already. Now, let's get right into it. Calorie and macro tracking for your goals. So this does not just apply to the 30-day plan. This is advice that you can use to set up your calories and your macros depending on when your goals change for the rest of your life. Calorie tracking and macro tracking is a tool that I want you guys to be able to use for the rest of your life, and you're gonna learn how to do it this month with me. So let's get started. So the first thing you need to ask yourself is, what is my goal? So what is my goal? I hope you can read this. So what is my goal? So if your goal is fat loss, then you're gonna need to be in a caloric deficit, and you're going to need to add in cardio when you're not seeing progress from just your diet. For lean gains, that means you're going to be in a caloric surplus. This means you want to put on some muscle mass. You will be doing little to no cardio because you want to focus on nailing your lifts and being as strong as possible. And then you can do cardio if you want, if you just really enjoy sweating. And then finally, if you want to maintain and undergo what's called body recomposition, that is burning fat and building muscle at the same time, keeping your calories right where your weight stays the same, you're gonna need to keep your calories there. And you can do cardio at your leisure, is what this says, but if you're doing so much cardio that your weight starts to go down and you start to get into a deficit, then you need to pull back on that cardio, or you can increase your food so that your weight stays the same. You don't want to see any change if you choose the maintenance option in your weight for the entire month. So let's go a little bit more into fat loss here. So what a caloric deficit is just that you're burning more than you're expending. You need to make sure you're including your exercise with that. So that does not mean that if you burn 600 calories doing a leg workout, that you can only have 600 calories that day. It means that on top of your basal metabolic rate, which is how much your body burns just laying in bed all day, on top of that, with your exercise and then with your non-exercise physical activity, so stuff like your job, walking around, going shopping, running errands, cooking, all of that is activity that you actually burn calories doing. Eating, the thermic effect of food, that too. When you're calculating your calories, you need to take all of those things into account, not just your exercise. So you're actually probably going to be eating a lot more than you think you should, contrary to what the app like MyFitnessPal will suggest for you. Don't trust that app's recommendations. It's bad. So I'm going to tell you guys how you are going to calculate your calories and your macros. I do want you guys to know from the start that if you're tracking your macros, that automatically means you're tracking your calories. So it's not one or the other. It's pretty much, if you're doing one, then you're probably doing both. Even if you're just tracking your calories, if you're plugging your food in, you will be able to see your macronutrient intake for the day. So it's not mutually exclusive. They go hand in hand, but tracking macros is a little more detail oriented than tracking calories in terms of your food choices. So if you're a total beginner, I would say just track your calories, have a protein goal and a fiber goal, and go from there. And then if you feel really comfortable with that after the 30 days, then add in that carb and fat goal and try to hit those as well, because at the end of the day, the more precise you are with your diet, the more guaranteed your results basically are. So carbs are 4 calories per gram, protein is 4 calories per gram, fat is 9 calories per gram, and alcohol is 7 calories per gram. So guys, keep this in mind. So that's why you're basically tracking both if you're tracking one. And so basically I've told you all about it. Now you're like, how the hell do I make those calculations, Marissa? Like, how am I supposed to know how to factor in my daily activity and all this and this and this? It's actually a lot simpler than you think. So basically, there is a formula that you can use, but the formula, and any formula, doesn't account for what you've already been doing. And the best way to figure out what you should do is by looking at what you're already doing. So what I call this is data collection. So if this is Monday or Tuesday, July 11th that you're watching this, then it's the perfect time to start collecting data on yourself. So what I want you to do is, number one, get the app MyFitnessPal. We are going to be using the app MyFitnessPal to track your food, even though its recommendations are pretty off for the most part in terms of its database and how many entries for food that it has and all the accuracy of the entries. That part is really great about it. So you don't need to buy the premium version. Don't pay for anything. I promise you don't need it. Even if you're tracking macros, you don't need to pay for it. It might make it more convenient if you really want to pay for it, but I never have, and I've been tracking macros for 3 years. So don't worry about it. You're gonna download that app and you're gonna track your food for the next week or until we start, so the next 6 days. And basically what you're gonna do is plug in every single thing you eat. Make sure you're measuring your food out with a food scale. For these 30 days, if you wanna see real progress, I do suggest you get a food scale and you use it for 90 to 95% of the food you eat every day. I'm gonna have a video come out later this week that's gonna make sure that you know that you're tracking your food correctly and accurately. Yeah, so just plug in all your food, and then at the end of the week or right before we start on July 17th or right before whenever you start this 30-day plan, what you're gonna do is you're gonna look at your weekly averages for everything. So you're gonna take your weight every single day for this week. You don't need to weigh yourself every single day for the whole 30 days. It can be helpful, it can be a great tool, but for this first data collection part, it's very important to take your weight every single morning in the same way. So wake up, I pee, and then I weigh myself. So you're in that fasted state. It's the most consistent thing you can do for your weight, and just go by that every single day. You will need to see which way it trends for this first week. So look at your weight and then look at which way it's going. Is it staying the same? Basically just bouncing around like maybe a 2-pound range, or is it trending up, or is it trending down? And so look at that and really see which way your weight is going. So from there, let's look at which way it's trending, and then let's look at your average calories or your average macros for the week. So you can look at your daily totals every single day. You can look at your daily totals every single day by going down to the nutrition button and seeing your daily totals and then averaging those out. You're gonna look at that and you're gonna say, okay, let's say hypothetically you ate 2,000 calories per day for that week. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna see what your weight did. Here's how it's gonna go for the 3 goals. If your weight stayed the exact same and you ate 2,000 calories, if your goal is to lose fat, take a look at your activity. If you're sedentary now and you're jumping into this program, you might be able to just keep your calories right there at 2,000 and allow the extra exercise to put you into a caloric deficit. Now, if you're already active and you're already training a lot and working out and you maintained on those 2,000 calories, then you're gonna need to cut calories down a little bit in order to see a caloric deficit happen, or you can add in cardio and keep food the same. You don't have to do both. It can be one or the other. If you want to be more aggressive, you can do a little bit more, but I would just say make a small change, see how it affects you, see where your progress goes, and then adjust the next week. You're never going to be able to see a lot of progress within a few days, so I always suggest just following what plan you give yourself for 1 week and then making adjustment at the next week. This is why having like a coach and like a check-in day is very helpful, because you can look at your entire week as a whole and kind of reflect on it and see what needs to change to see the progress you want. Now, let's say your goal is to maintain your weight. If you maintained your weight on 2,000 calories, then keep it the same. And do keep in mind that if you were sedentary before and you're jumping into this 30-day plan, then you may need to actually increase calories to account for that extra exercise in order for your weight to stay the same. Now, if your goal is to gain weight and you maintained on those 2,000 calories, again, take into account your activity. If you're sedentary before, you're gonna need to bump calories up, and then you're gonna need to bump them up again because you want to gain weight. If you were active before, then you may just need to bump your calories up just a little bit so that you start seeing that surplus happen. But again, it's just really dependent on how much weight you want to gain or lose per week. So make sure you're making adjustments accordingly to that. So let's say your weight was going down over the course of the week on those hypothetical 2,000 calories. Think about it the same way. So fat loss, if your weight was going down, you don't need to change anything. You're already losing body fat. And if you are sedentary before and you're adding in more exercise, then you might even be able to increase your food and still see weight loss. So that's the really cool part about training really hard. You can eat a little bit more. And now if your weight was going down and you want to gain weight, you better bump those calories up and then up again, because you got to get out of fat loss to maintenance, and then you got to get out of maintenance to the surplus. So you're gonna probably need to increase your calories a little bit more than if you were just making one step. And then if you were losing weight and you wanna maintain your weight, then just bump your calories up a little bit until you see your weight steady out week to week. And then lastly, if your weight was going up on those hypothetical 2,000 calories, again, it can be any number, but I'm just throwing that out there because it's easy to kind of think about. If your weight was going up on those, if your goal is fat loss, then again, take into account your activity. If you're not training at all, then just the training added in itself might be enough to knock you down to maintenance and even down to a caloric deficit if you're training hard enough. And you can also just add in cardio and keep your food the same and see where your weight goes. But if that's not working, then you may need to cut calories more, because again, you gotta go from gaining weight to maintenance and then to that deficit. If your goal is to gain weight, then you're on the right track. If you're gaining too quickly, then you can bring calories down a little bit, or you can add a little bit of cardio, but you still want to see that weight go up a little bit by a little bit. If your goal is to maintain your weight, then you might just need to slash calories down a little bit, or just add a little bit of cardio in to see your weight level out. That's how you're gonna set up your calories and your cardio. So by how much should you increase or slash your calories? I would say 1 to 200 to start. If you have to make 2 steps, like I said, then maybe 300 to 400 depending on your activity level and everything like that. But it's always best to play it safe rather than sorry. Go a little bit slower at the beginning and see how much progress you can make on as little change as possible. And that is the most sustainable way to see progress. It's not the fastest, but it is the most sustainable way, because you're not gonna slash your calories down super fast, be starving for a month, and then when you're done, just binge eat and gain it all back and more. You're gonna be able to see that progress, see that you didn't have to do that much to get there, and then if you wanna push harder, you can, and then if you want to pull back, then you can do that too, and you won't have to sacrifice your results because you're feeling deprived and all you want to do is cheat on your diet. And that's how most diets are nowadays, and that's why this is an unconventional method, but it's gaining some ground in the fitness industry, and I'm so glad to be preaching this message. So then, once you have your calories, that's how you set up the calories, then you're gonna pick a protein goal. I don't care if you are just tracking calories or you're tracking your macros, you're gonna pick a protein goal because you need to be eating adequate protein for this program. Start with 1 gram per pound of body weight. If you like eating more protein, you can go a little bit above. And if you don't like eating protein and you have trouble hitting your protein, you can go a little bit below. But honestly, I wouldn't push it anywhere below 10 grams below your body weight. Just keep it right around there, and that's your protein goal. That's it. So I weigh 130 pounds right now. It's gonna be 130 grams of protein per day. Do note that if you are extremely overweight or obese, that you should account for your protein goal by pounds of lean body mass, not by your actual total weight, because a lot of overweight people's total weight is excess fat. So whatever you believe your lean body mass is, like subtracting the amount of excess fat you think you have, should be your protein goal. If you're overweight, let's say you're 200 pounds and you think you have 50 pounds of extra fat on you, your protein goal shouldn't be 200, it should be 150, if that makes sense. For fat, you want to have 25% of your calories minimum go to fat for optimal hormone function, and especially for women, this is so crucial. So just multiply your total calories by 0.25, and then that number is the amount of calories that you're gonna be using to give to fat macros. So fat, like I said, fat is 9 calories per gram. So do calories times 0.25, then divide that by 9, and that's gonna be the number of grams of fat minimum that you need per day for optimal hormone function. And then from there, either keep that the same, or if you like having a higher fat ratio, you can increase that amount. It's totally okay to have more than that for fats. That's just like the minimum baseline. You can increase that if you want, but basically the rest of your calories are gonna come from carbs. Take your protein, multiply it by 4, take your grams of fat, and multiply that by 9, add those two together, subtract it from your total daily calories, and then divide that by 4 to get your grams of carbs per day. You really can manipulate your carbs versus your fats, which is why if you're tracking calories, you can still see progress if you're just tracking your calories and protein. So it really just depends on preference. If you like having more fat, maybe increase it to 30 or 35% fat per day. I know me personally, I love carbs, and carbs are an amazing energy source for your workouts, especially because we're gonna be lifting so hard, guys. I would highly suggest trying to get as many carbs in your macros as possible. So honestly, if you want to make those lean gains, get toned down, and lose a lot of body fat, then keeping fat close to that 25% and having your carbs be as high as possible is probably gonna be optimal. And that's just my opinion, but that's what I'm gonna be doing. And then lastly, fiber. So whether or not you're tracking macros or you're tracking just calories and protein, both need a fiber goal. So fiber is crucial to your digestion. It's crucial to feeling full, especially if you're gonna be in a deficit, guys. Try to get as much fiber as possible. It's gonna help keep you feeling full, keep you satisfied. It's going to help keep your cravings away, and it's just gonna make dieting so much more enjoyable. It's also amazing for your gut health and for being regular, if you know what I mean. So fiber, you wanna have 20 to 25 grams per day minimum. I would say shoot for 25, and typically when people get to around 35 or 40 grams of fiber per day, typically when you start to see number 2 not be so number 2 anymore. So that might be too much fiber. So I would say probably 25 to 35 is a good range of fiber, but again, there's no set amount. So I know some people who are vegan who I've had as clients who can down 60 to 70 grams of fiber per day because they're eating so many vegetables, so many grains, and so many like beans and stuff, and they have so much fiber in their normal daily routine, and that's normal for them, and their body's used to it. But for someone who is changing their lifestyle, changing their diet from eating a lot of processed food to eating a lot of whole food, you're likely eating little to no fiber as it is right now. So going from like 10 grams per day to like 50 grams per day is not a good idea. You want to get to that 20 to 25 gram per day range and then see what feels best for you after that. So now I hope you understand that what should my macros be, or what should my calories be, is no longer a valid question. You can figure it out for yourself just by collecting data on yourself and seeing where you should be. Now, you can always hire a coach to do your macros for you. That is what I do for a living. But if you don't feel too overwhelmed from doing all this data collection and doing the calculations, then this is a perfectly fine way to figure out what your macros should be. Again, your body is constantly changing. Your body is dynamic, which means your macros are dynamic. This is why you should evaluate your week every single week, see where you're at, and make changes. You shouldn't just have your macros and then have them be your macros for the rest of your life. That's not how it works. If you lose weight, your macros are likely going to be going down. And then when you gain weight, you want to have your macros go up. And depending on how much you train, you can change your macros. So it's all dynamic, so don't get stuck to some numbers. You can always change your macros. And if you decide that you want more fats than carbs, you can switch them out. That part is totally preference, like I said. So hopefully that all makes sense to you guys. And after this 30 days is over, I'm gonna be posting what's called the post-program series, because this is the pre-program series, and it's gonna be detailing what you should do with your nutrition after the 30 days. If, let's say, you're like me and you choose fat loss for the 30 days, then afterwards you're gonna need what's called a reverse diet, just how to maintain the results you've gotten or keep going after this 30 days is over. So make sure you catch that video. If you're watching this later on, then that video is already up and it's at the end of the playlist. If you're watching this while these videos are being posted, that will be posted at the end of the series. So if you've watched this entire video, you've taken notes, you're trying it out on your own, then if you have any questions, follow up, then please leave them in the comments below, or you can email me at my email address, marissaroy.pt@gmail.com. It's also in the description box below. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have, so just let me know, comments, email, whatever you want, and I will see you guys tomorrow in the next video in the pre-program series, and I'm super excited to get this going. So everybody get tracking on MyFitnessPal, learn about what you're eating, start collecting data on yourself, and get ready to start on July 17th. Again, go back to the last video to find out how to get the program, how to get started, how to get entered in everything. Go to that last video and it'll tell you everything. It's all free, completely 100% free for you guys. I just want you guys to learn and to be able to apply all of this to your life and make your quality of life better. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow in the next video of the pre-program series. Give this video a thumbs up if it helped you figure out your macros, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.